We have a massive co-main event made for the UFC 291 card in Salt Lake City, Utah, headlined by Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje. The co-main event is Alex Pereira versus Jan Blachowicz, former middleweight champion Alex Pereira and former light heavyweight champion Jan Blachowicz. This is a pretty big matchup, maybe a title eliminator, a possible title eliminator. Jan Blachowicz is coming off a very interesting matchup with who was it? Magomed Ankalaev. And then Alex Pereira is coming off a loss to Israel Adesanya, the middleweight champion. So this could get very interesting. This is the likely title eliminator for Alex Pereira. I'm not too sure about Jan Blachowicz because he does have a loss to Glover Teixeira relatively recently, and a weird matchup with Magomed Ankalaev. So we're going to do an early prediction and breakdown for this matchup. Let's get right into it. We have Alex Pereira 7-2, Jan Blachowicz 29-9. Alex Pereira 36, Jan Blachowicz 40 years old. So Alex Pereira will be 4 years younger than him. Kind of crazy that Jan Blachowicz is 40 years old. We'll see if age plays a factor in this one. Alex Pereira will be 2 inches taller than Jan Blachowicz. This is obviously at the 205-pound weight division. Alex Pereira will have a 2-inch reach advantage and the same leg reach. Jan Blachowicz's last fight, again, I believe it was a split draw against Magomed Ankalaev. It was for the vacant light heavyweight championship. He beat Alexander Rakic. Really interesting win there. Alexander Rakic kind of just messed up his leg, and that's kind of how the matchup ended. It didn't really go too long, so you couldn't really see who exactly was going to win it, but very unfortunate situation there. Lost to Glover Teixeira by submission, beat Israel Adesanya by decision, and then beat Dominic Reyes by KO for Alex Pereira. His last fight was a loss to Israel Adesanya. Got KO'd, but was looking really good in that fight. I believe he was winning it till, or he should have been winning it till. You know how the judges are. I thought that was. I looked at the judges' scorecard right after, and I was pretty angry about it. But I believe Alex Pereira was winning that fight relatively clearly, or at least up to the KO. Before then, he beat Alex Pereira. He beat Israel Adesanya to become the middleweight champion. He was losing that fight until the end, kind of in that last round, kind of dominated Izzy for that round and then ended up finishing him. Probably got like 2 rounds off of that entire fight. But did beat Sean Strickland right before then, KO'd and with the left hook pretty quickly too. Sean Strickland was not being very smart in that fight, and then beat Bruno Silva by decision. Kind of had a little bit of a war there, and then hit a flying knee on Andreas Michailidis. So hasn't had too many fights in the UFC, has had 5 in total, 4-1 in the UFC. Now moving up to light heavyweight in his natural kind of division. He kind of had to cut a lot of weight to go to the middleweight division. I think he was at like, he weighs like 230 or something out of camp, I believe. They show pictures with him and like Gelton Almeida. They're like very similar size. Even recently with him walking around with Tyson Fury, like his height, it's up there for sure. I think, as you can see in the picture, Jan Blachowicz is like a thicker dude. He's got a thicker build. But Alex Pereira is very like tall dude, very strong. You can tell. But yeah, we'll see how this one looks. I kind of want to see what they look like standing next to each other, just to see like how much bigger Alex Pereira is and how much bigger like in size in general Jan Blachowicz would be, like width wise, and because he is a stockier build compared to Alex Pereira, I kind of want to see what that looks like. So for this matchup, it is in Salt Lake City, Utah, so you kind of have to take into account altitude. You had to kind of do it in their last pay-per-view with the Usman Edwards card, but you kind of saw what it did to the fighters, so you kind of have to really put it in perspective for this matchup. I don't know how much it will. I don't know if there's going to be a massive disadvantage for either one of these guys for this matchup in altitude. Like, I mean, not necessarily an advantage because they're both in altitude and they both not necessarily train at high altitude. So I don't think anyone's going to have an advantage here. But Jan Blachowicz with his wrestling, he kind of has to do what he did to Israel Adesanya in the second half of that fight. I thought he was outstriking Israel Adesanya in that matchup before taking him down. I think he has to take down Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira has heat in his hands, a lot of power in his hands that could put Jan Blachowicz out. A 40-year-old Jan Blachowicz too, who's arguably coming off of 3 interesting fights. Again, the loss to Glover Teixeira, an interesting win against Alexander Rakic, which I don't know. You can't really be too excited about. Like when you see a win over Alexander Rakic and it was an injury and it was pretty early on in the fight, you can't really take too much away from that. And then a draw to Magomed Ankalaev. So take with that what you will. Jan Blachowicz should be looking for takedowns in this fight. We saw I believe people say Izzy took Alex Pereira down. He didn't take him down. It was more like like Alex Pereira shot in for a really bad takedown, and Israel Adesanya kind of shifted position and kind of was able to control him on the ground. So realistically, Jan Blachowicz is able to get him to the ground. He kind of should be able to control him there. The weight cut in general shouldn't be too bad for Alex Pereira, so maybe the chin might be a little bit better because he is coming off a really bad knockout. How long ago was this? Like a month ago? This fight is in July, and it is currently the end of May. So this will be, what, 2 months? Two or 3 months from that fight where he got KO'd by Israel Adesanya. I don't know what to necessarily think about it because he got put out really badly. Obviously, the weight cut probably had a really big factor in him getting touched up pretty badly there, but this is at the light heavyweight division, so I don't think the power will be too much of an issue for Alex Pereira. He does keep his hands really low. He doesn't really defend the punches too well either. I don't know if it's because it's the smaller gloves and it's not like the kickboxing gloves where they're much bigger and he's able to defend it a little bit better. It's definitely causing an issue for him. But we'll see how this one goes. Alex Pereira, I believe, is a black belt or like a brown belt or something. He's got really good jiu-jitsu. Not on paper, he's got really good jiu-jitsu. We don't know it necessarily in MMA. Obviously, Israel Adesanya did better in the grappling positions on the ground when they did fight in that first matchup in MMA. But Jan Blachowicz needs to take him down here. I think Alex Pereira has a weird chance in this matchup. I think he's going to be a lot better on the feet, technically speaking. Maybe more power. I kind of want to see what the power looks like at light heavyweight. He obviously did have those kickboxing fights, so he had tons of power there. But I kind of want to see it like an MMA, like an actual MMA, what it looks like at light heavyweight. Is he faster? Like what does he look like in general? But yeah, I think Jan Blachowicz should be looking for takedowns. If he does get the takedowns and Alex Pereira's not able to defend them, this could be a really big problem for Alex Pereira, obviously. I think if he does get taken down, he's kind of staying there in altitude. He's already gassing against like an Israel Adesanya when he was in those grappling positions, had to take a round off after. This could be a really big issue for Alex Pereira. It is a 3-round fight, so I guess that helps him there too, but he really needs to avoid the takedowns. Jan Blachowicz said he wants to test his striking, his stand-up against Alex Pereira, which is not smart at all. I think Alex Pereira would probably KO him. I'm going to be honest, or at least TKO him if they do that. So Jan Blachowicz, take him down. You win this fight. If not, I think if it stays on the feet, I think Alex Pereira eventually catches him in like the 2nd or 3rd round. But if he's able to defend the takedowns, maybe Alex Pereira can win this by like gassing out Jan Blachowicz for trying to get the takedown. I don't know. This is really just up to Jan Blachowicz. If he's able to get the takedowns, he could probably ease this one to a decision. Tapology, I have it pulled up right now. 57% for Blachowicz, and they have, 62% by decision for him, and then 43% for Pereira, and people are saying he's going to have to get the KO here. So I think he can definitely KO a guy like Jan Blachowicz, maybe introduce some leg kicks, some more body work, make it a little bit more technical. That light heavyweights really don't see too much, let's be real. They aren't super technical guys there, but we'll see how this one goes. I think Alex Pereira will do really well on the feet. It just depends on how long it will take Jan Blachowicz to really implement the takedowns in this matchup is really going to be a big factor. So I think if I were to give a prediction here, I think I might ride a little bit with Alex Pereira because I think he'll eventually just be able to find that opening on the feet. Because, again, the fight always starts out on the feet. If his takedown defense is really that bad, then obviously he's going to lose this fight. But because every fight starts on the feet, you might just give that advantage to Pereira here. But Blachowicz, if he looks for the takedowns, I think he can win this. But I think Alex Pereira is going to be better on the feet. And he's going to catch Blachowicz at some point, especially as the fight goes on. If Pereira is able to defend some of these takedowns, I think, because let's be real, I know it is Israel Adesanya. And I think Pereira got taken down by Bruno Silva, I think. And then he got taken down by Michailidis. And he is the bigger guy too. Israel Adesanya couldn't get the takedowns on Alex Pereira. If he's able to defend these and get Jan Blachowicz to gas out, at least get super tired and make a lot of mistakes on the feet, Alex Pereira can definitely KO him. And I think he really needs to work on that takedown defense. If he gets it, I think he gets it done for sure. But this one's kind of up in the air at this point. I don't know. I think Jan Blachowicz uses his wrestling, and I think he wins this one by decision. But it can easily be a Pereira win. 100% easily be a Pereira win. But I am going to ride with Blachowicz for now. I think I could I wouldn't be surprised if I switch my pick over when that fight happens. If you see Pereira working on a lot of this takedown defense, because we haven't seen him at light heavyweight in MMA. So that would be a really big thing here. Again, Blachowicz is 40 years old. We'll see how this one looks. It's so weird because it feels like Pereira's like the older guy now looking at the middleweight division. But now when you move it to light heavyweight and you see a 40-year-old Jan Blachowicz, it's like, okay, he's still got some time at least, right? There should be an interesting matchup. I can't wait for it. Let me know who you guys think wins down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.